Welcome to your awakening. Please take hold as your reality is adjusted. Please remain calm as we flood your media sphere with loads more crazy bullshit to keep you distracted and confused and fearful and all that other malicious shit that we do to your brain on a daily basis, polluting your energy and trying to divert you into a direction that serves our purpose. So I'm trying to do a little bit of a kind of BBC voice, but I'm shit at doing BBC voice. And even more so now that they have so many more diverse accents that they have. You know, they learned that people, well, supposedly, people like hearing local accents. So they've employed a lot more people with a diversity of accents. It makes it seem like they're fulfilling that requirement of being diverse. It makes me laugh. I always get this image in my head. You hear the guy in between the programs, and he's got a really broad accent. And I've just got this image in my head that as soon as he's finished doing his introduction between the two programs and he turns the microphone off, he goes back to BBC lovey voice. He's like, "Was that good for you? Was that good for you in the studio? Did I get the accent right on that bit?" Yeah, I know there are a lot of people that work in the industry that genuinely are. Yeah, they're from areas that have a strong accent, and I'm not belittling them in any way. It's just a cynical perspective on the BBC. But anyway, greetings, well met. Welcome back again, folks. It is another Moon Day evening and another broadcast of Sol Excalibre on this Moon Day evening. We're up to episode 5 so far this year. Yes, we are now into February. Yeah, as long as I'm able to broadcast at least once a week, then hopefully it will follow through the weeks in the year. So 5 weeks means you've gone through one whole month of 2019. Well done, you survived. Yet again, we made it this far. So I'm trying to multitask at the same time and get all my usual windows open so I can get a track on what I'm doing like I usually do. We were a tiny bit late starting because we were yakking like usually happens. But it's just gone 9 p.m. GMT, 2100 hours, 2105 at the moment on the 4th of the 2nd, 2019, here on the internets, on YouTube. Hopefully the broadcast is all going out okay. Yeah, it looks like it is. Cool. I did send out some other invites. At the moment we've got just the 4 of us in the room. Hopefully if some of the other guys want to join in, and welcome to join in. I've sent you invites. Say hello to everyone in the chat room before we carry on like I usually do. So good evening, Dino. Good evening. Super Leads, hello. Good evening to you too. Should I do a BBC voice all the way down? It'll probably take ages. Super Leads and lots of tats row. Good evening. Good evening, sir. Welcome. We could be like one of those private exclusive clubs, like a smoking club. Come in, pick your leather chair to sit in by the door or by the fire. Paula B, hello, good evening. Good evening. Do I need to stress the syllables more? Dave Iron, hello. Good evening to you. And goes in the room. Reality Chat is in the room. Andy Manchester, hello. I've got a good evening. I can't do a Manchester accent. I was just thinking, should I say good evening in a Manchester accent? It'd sound terrible. So I'm not going to do it. New Being, hello. And Marie T. Hello, hello. Good evening to you. Scrolling down. Right, I've got to the newest part of the chat. I think I've said hello, good evening to everyone. Good evening to everyone. Those of you that are not in the chat as well. And for those of you that are listening from the Raconteurs News earlier, if you tuned into the guys that were broadcasting earlier, they only did about an hour tonight from 7 to just after 8. I think they were broadcasting. If you haven't checked them out, go and check them out. Raconteur News. I usually share the link around when they're broadcasting as well. I sent you an invite, Jason. If you want to join in, you're always welcome. And pass it on to Paul and Andy if they want to join in. They're always welcome. Right, get back to my notes. I'll mention a few other things. I've got no major. I was going to say I've got no major thread to talk about tonight, but I suppose there is a major thread in there. Put in the subtitle this evening: "Bred for the circus." Not bread and circuses, not BREAD, but instead "Bred for the circus," BRED. And I've been inspired by this because if you didn't know, there happens to be the Super Bowl in America coming up soon. I think is it coming up? No, it's already been on, hasn't it? Now, is it last weekend? But I've just seen the bits and bobs bubbling away in the internet chatter, various uploads and people's commentary and stuff like that based around it's the Super Bowl again. And as people have been entrained into this internet, YouTube in particular is, quite in on this, or quite entranced by this effect now, where the Super Bowl has become a spectacle, not just for those people that tune in because they're sports fans or, they enjoy just the entertainment value of it. They want to watch the football, blah, blah, blah. No, now there's a whole new demographic that tunes in for the Super Bowl just to watch the weirdness, to see the New World Order programming, to see the Illuminati celebrations, the ceremonies, the symbolism, all that kind of stuff. And it's become a whole industry on the internet. And listening to Steve's show on Saturday, he was talking about people being in a trance, the populace being in a trance. And I just thought it was quite appropriate. Yeah, entranced into the game, back into the circus. People who have been bred to be part of the circus, because the circus can't exist with just the entertainers, the actors, the performers. All of that requires an audience. So the audience is bred just as much as the entertainers are bred to fit that role. And everybody gets upset and triggered at this point because they feel that you're attacking them personally and saying that their personal choices of entertainment or what interests them or what they find enjoyable is suddenly bad and wrong, and you're having a go at them and slapping them on the back of the hand and going, "Naughty, you naughty little child, stop looking at that silliness." And a lot of that has become a sticking point, which is why I felt it's worth talking about tonight. It's a fair commentary in reply to a lot of what I'm often doing, a lot of what people like myself do with these broadcasts. I think it's a fair commentary or point to raise that often it comes across as just being moralizing and hand-wringing of, "Oh, look at the woe in the world. Oh, all you people are so terrible. Where are your morals? Oh, you're all so degenerate. It's all terrible." And then you get into the us and them bullshit, the sheeple versus the normies, or the tinfoil hat people versus the sheeple. It just gets silly after a while, and it dilutes and diverts any message, any information, any value that could be beneficial or helpful or healthy for people to pick up on. And it just turns it into bickering and that kind of nastiness. So, as I say, no major thread for me to string out like I often do. Well, lay out various points of reference to try and reveal a thread that I'm trying to point at. Yeah, because oftentimes a lot of the stuff that I'm referencing is subtle or occulted, semi-hidden, subconscious. Unless you start being aware of it, you don't notice it's there. It's like breathing or swallowing, just took a swig of coffee. Yeah, oftentimes if you start thinking about those bodily functions, they become awkward. It's like if you think too much about swallowing, you find that you have difficulty swallowing. If you think too much about, am I breathing okay? All of a sudden you find that you're heavily breathing or you're hyperventilating because you're fixating on it and you're turning it into a problem. It becomes a problem because you fixate on any slight deviation that you feel is outside the norm, and that just exacerbates it. In the same manner, we're often talking about things where we're questioning people's morals, or, what are you doing, man? That's just crazy. Why the fuck do you do that kind of shit? And it's pointing out those abnormalities. And it may sound like, and I'm saying we a lot here because, it's not a royal we. I'm speaking from the knowledge, the experience that there are many people out there who do stuff similar to myself. And I know they say things similar to myself. They use similar arguments and rhetoric, etc. They use similar evidence and examples. So it's not just me saying this. I feel it's perfectly justified and factual to say we, because there are many people doing similar things. But that moralizing can often sound like, we're just sitting there finger wagging. Like we're the know-it-alls, so we're going to tell you how things should be, and you should be doing this, and you should be doing that. But when it gets to the stage where the polarization, the extremes that are being created, you're left in a catch-22 situation of, well, if you don't speak out about it, then aren't you just acquiescing to it? And if you do speak out about it, then those people who feel maligned by what you're pointing out will point at you and start attacking you. So that's why I feel that's why often a lot of people don't say anything or won't get involved in trying to get something changed in their government or in their local council or in their, their neighborhood. They just won't because they're too concerned about, well, I'll end up becoming the target. And often that's a fair statement in a bag full of rats. The fattest rat will pick on all the others. And that is unfortunately often the situation of daily life. If you're the one that stands up above the parapet, then you're the one that all the other people will pick on and vent their angst against. You become the whipping post, whether they agree with you or not. You become their bearer of pain, their icon that they use to get rid of their pain in one way or another, either by attacking you or by sympathizing with you and venting vicariously. So, might sound all a bit obscure and obtuse and generalized at the moment, which is just the way it is, talking about stuff in general. And there's nothing wrong with that. Oh, Blasto Biff Flaming. Thank you. So, a few things I wanted to mention. As far as I know, this is going through the motions of getting passed and ratified and stuff like that. I'm not, this is a reference to something going on in the USA at the moment, and I'm not living in the USA, so I can't sort of put my hands on this directly to get more confirmation. But I'm fairly confident from what I've seen from other people that this is actually getting passed through and is going to become legal. But they're now talking in some areas of the USA about full-term abortion and even post-term abortion. That just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, other than in a populace that has been bred for the circus. Part of that circus game is the acceptance that some of your children will be consumed by the dragon during the circus performance. What? Even just late-term abortion is insanity. It's infanticide, insanity. etymologically similar, but is the populace bred for the circus to such a degree that they can't even raise their heads to question that because they're so afraid of being attacked by all the other circus goers for questioning what the hell is that all about? It might seem a bit of a shoe in here, me sort of inserting this topic into this general thread, but I feel it's very relevant of just how far has the populace been taken. You know, this is a story from the USA, but as the culture has been globalized for the majority of us, if you're not actually in a Western style nation at the moment, don't worry, that Western style democracy will soon be coming to you. The world is being globalized under a single cultural paradigm, so that wherever you go in the world, you find the same corporate branding shit and the same hierarchical consumerist predatory model being enforced. That's a singular global culture. So what is being presented to people in the USA is relevant to us here in the UK as well, and in other Western nations. Yeah, that's the point. But when they start talking about that kind of, even just late-term abortion, you know, abortion itself is a difficult topic for people to talk about. But when it gets to a stage where they're talking about 8 months abortion, what are you on about? That is outright murder. And then even the suggestion of post-birth abortion, that just doesn't even make any sense. That is how insane the populace has been taken to, that when these kind of ideas are presented to them by supposed figures of authority, the people that are introducing these bills through their parliamentary system to get them ratified, etc., etc., the public isn't just like, that's beyond a double take. That's just like, what the hell is going on here? What the hell is maybe an appropriate way of saying it, but you know, I'm not a Christian. You know? Just to reiterate that point for the however many time, the thousandth time or whatever it is. So it gets to this point again, brings me back to this point of the question of morality. And at what point do you get past your fear of speaking out? Yeah, other people might be annoyed with you. Other people might get triggered by what you say, and other people might get upset because they feel that you're addressing them personally and calling them a bad person. You know, you're a naughty child because you're doing this kind of shit. Yeah, okay, can we get past that bit, please? Grow up. I know it sounds condescending, me saying it that way, but that's the stage it gets to, where after a while it's like, look, you're being a twat, stop being a twat, please. Stop being a fool and stop projecting back at me your sense of guilt because it's been revealed that you're being foolish. You're being crazy supporting all this kind of stuff. And just because I'm the one that's pointing out how this stuff is crazy, you then start attacking me. Please grow up and develop some awareness and be able to see that it's not me that's causing these problems to you. I'm not trying to instigate this kind of legislate things such as full-term abortion. So why are you directing your angst at me? Why don't you direct your angst at the people that are actually causing these problems? That's a way of, for me as well, referencing this environment, this internet environment, because I think this is one of the main points to be raising with people at the moment. It basically comes back to freedom of speech and the ability to have exchanges with each other, to interact with each other, where the exchange is not for an item, it's not a product or even a service. It's about the intercommunication between people and the sharing of knowledge, awareness, perception, concerns, and remedies. You know, there are solutions and remedies out there for a lot of the problems of the world. It's just that many people are persuaded or nudged to fixate upon the fearful stuff because they want people to be stuck in fear, because when you're stuck in fear, you don't do anything. You don't make any changes. You don't speak out because you're too afraid of what the people next door will think of you, because they'll think you're a crazy tinfoil hat wearing weirdo. But in this environment, this year in particular, last year I was talking a lot about it being the year of the Phoenix. There was something, I know I've said this many times in many ways last year, there was something about last year that made me inclined to name it that way. And even though, I can quite easily argue that was there a singular event that you could say like that was the rising of the Phoenix? That was the big destructive event that everybody's always on tenterhooks waiting for, on the edge of the seat, looking at the internet, going, any minute now, the world's going to explode. What's going to happen? Was there any event like that? Maybe you could point at a few things and say they could have been it. But really, it was what was going on in the background of that holistic globalizing agenda that I was referencing as being the Phoenix effect. They've got to a point now where a vast majority of the population has been hyper-normalized. Please go and watch that documentary if you haven't seen it before. It's a bit long, but it's worth your time if you haven't seen it. Oh man, I keep wanting to say Adam Curry again. It's not Adam Curry, Adam Curtis. Sorry, I keep getting that one mixed up. Bloody Adam Curry. But yeah, go and check that out. There have been a population that has been hyper-normalized to this circus spectacular of the social media sphere, the entertainment sphere that it has become, because now the news is entertainment as well. So the wag the dog storyline that has been going on for years in the mainstream news media is entertainment value. For many people, that's all it is. It's entertainment. It doesn't really influence how they go about their lives. They just turn it on in the background. They go, oh, somewhere's blown up again. Oh, somewhere in the world has had a rebellion again. Oh, there's some dictator killing people somewhere again. Oh, wow. At least my life's okay. I'll shut up and keep my head down, because otherwise they might take me chocolate ration off me because I questioned about the insidious coup that has been engineered in South America. Oh, no, I better not question that. They'll take me chocolate away. So in this environment, in this process of the Phoenix effect, they want to crack down on this environment immensely. They already have been. I've been ranting about it for years. The electronic walls, the digital walls are closing in on this environment. It is getting more and more difficult to be allowed to reach out to people on supposedly a public open platform. It's not. The usual arguments can be made about, oh, it's a private company and all that kind of shit, but just how private it is when you see the corporate structure of the system for what it is. It's a corporatist system. Therefore, these massive platforms are most definitely not privately owned private enterprises that are doing their own thing because they're a private company, blah, blah, blah. No, doesn't add up to what is actually taking place in reality. So as we're progressing, your ability, my ability to be able to talk about these kind of things and maybe exchange points of view, ideas or information or remedies is going to get harder and harder. And your ability to just be able to outright question the craziness, such as things like full-term abortion, you won't be able to even question it. Because if you do, you will get prosecuted for some reason. Maybe they'll prosecute you for using hate speech or for being an extremist, so that you're making people frightened by making them consider that a late-term abortion is the equivalent to murder. Oh, no, you can't even raise that idea in people's minds because you'll make them fearful, and therefore that's bullying, that's hate speech, that's not allowed, that's prosecutable. Years ago, for many people that I'd often talk to about this kind of stuff, I always got the impression that they, even though, if they might be willing to listen and they might even, nod and agree a little bit, I often felt very much like they were just giving me some consideration and time. They didn't necessarily accept what I was presenting to them. They didn't necessarily give it any genuine credence as being reality or a possible direction or maybe even conclusion to where we're going. But I have been raising this point about 1984 and the global tyrannical technocratic control system that they are implementing around us. And I've often got that kind of reaction of like, oh yeah, mate, yeah, 1984, yeah, okay, mate, yeah. Now, as the years have been going past, and more, these effects have gone far beyond art imitating life. The original book, 1984, was written as a novel. It's presented as fiction, art, but it was art imitating a reality that George Orwell had experienced during his working life, working for the BBC and other experiences and interactions that he had. And now it's that art being emanated into reality. So it's no longer imitating, it is a direct copy of. It's not just speculation anymore. There are now these things in place. You no longer need to speculate that, oh, is there a bunch of people who work at the BBC who deliberately go through this information and edit it to present it to fit into a particular politicized agenda narrative? Oh, there is. Oh, it's been proven multiple times, again and again and again and again and again. And it's not just applicable to one country, the UK, the BBC. The American agencies have been in court admitting that they have agents working within the media industry, and that's going back decades. That particular case is from the 70s, I think late 60s, early 70s. They were dragged into court and they had to admit that, yes, we have operatives in all the mainstream media outlets to manage the information that gets passed through that outlet. So all information is managed, manipulated, politicized, or quarantined. It's just as applicable to the academic world, the world of science and all that kind of shit. If a scientist discovers something that does not suit the agenda, it'll just get shelved. It'll get disappeared into a back room somewhere. And that scientist will be given a new job on some secret project where he can't publish his findings, blah, blah, blah. So at what point do you get to the stage of thinking, well, yeah, okay, I'm going to get some shit thrown at me, but this situation is now getting so serious that I'm prepared to put up with the shit. The shit is meaningless compared to the horror that is being perpetrated. Which is more frightening? The being called crazy or actually having to witness, because it might not necessarily be happening to you directly. You might end up just being a witness to this kind of shit being carried out against somebody else. You witness somebody having their home taken away from them, or you witness somebody getting beaten by the police, or you witness some massive injustice through the judicial system, etc., etc. The examples can go on and on and on. Yeah. At what point do you stop paying any heed to the heckling cowards who turn up and try to use really simplistic sophistry to persuade you that even talking about these kind of subjects will cause you to become schizophrenic? I would like to see you provide proof for that, please. I want to see scientific, biological proof that talking about any subject can cause you to become schizophrenic. And this is a statement directed at a particular individual that turned up in Steve's chat. They know who they are, and I'm sure they're listening, because they can't help themselves but constantly persist with their obsession, because they have to keep feeding their obsession. So you'll see this stuff turn up occasionally in chat boxes, in commentary. You're just a crazy tinfoil hatter. At what point do you say, okay, yeah, I know there's going to be twats like that out there. It's not going to stop me from saying what I'm saying. At the moment, I feel very much like I'm sounding like David Icke, which could be a bit unfortunate. But it's one thing that I do absolutely agree with him on, and have done for a long time, is people's concern about what everybody else thinks about them is a major part of the fear factor that the system relies on to keep itself in power. Yeah. The more people are afraid of speaking out, the more the system is allowed to perpetuate. The more things remain the same. The more people repeat phrases such as, oh, it's just the way it is, mate. Oh, you can't change the world. All these kind of disempowering cliches. Yeah, let's talk about being realistic and pragmatic. If you live in airy fairyland, you're living on a cloud where you think that just by wishing all the problems away, all of a sudden the world's going to be lovely and it's going to be cupcakes and unicorns and rainbows for everyone, then no, that's not realistic. That's just as disempowering as you telling people that they can't change the world. But the two are just polarized extremes of each other. You can change the world. You do change the world every single fucking day. So this concept that you cannot is utter bullshit, illogical, fallacious, sophistry meant to distract you and get you back into that position where your fear supports the hierarchical system that sits on top of you. I made this graphic up ages ago, years ago. And it's the old image of, is it Kissinger? No, it can't be Kissinger. What am I about? Oh, whatever. That was a war propaganda, war recruiting poster.
Lord Kitchener cookie.
Kitchener, thank you. Yeah, I should have remembered in the kitchen, yeah, where they cook things, where they cook the meat, where they prepare the bread for the circus. No, anyway, yeah, the concept being your country, the very concept of a country, the nation state, requires fear in you. You know, the original image is your country needs you. I just put fear in red in the background to try and imply that it is subtly there. The you that they want is the fearful you, because the fearful you can be controlled. You will obey what they tell you to because you are in fear of the consequences if you disobey. You know, I know as well, it can be easily said that nearly everything I'm saying is cliched, it's simplistic, it's derivative, it's non-actionable, all the usual kind of, again, disempowering, just energy sapping, energy vampirism that gets constantly pumped out there by those heckling cowards, because that's what they are, heckling cowards. Imagine that crowd of people stood outside the castle, you know, getting ready to deal with the oppressors, with the people that are perpetuating that bullshit of the hierarchy. And then you got a few guys in the crowd, guys, girls, men and women in the crowd that are like, oh no, but what about the roads? Yeah, they built the roads. What did the Romans ever do for us? Roads, aqueducts. Yeah, just reminded of that scene from Life of Brian, where our oppressors are killing us. Oh yeah, but they gave us the roads. At what point do you stop listening to those heckling cowards? Because that's what it comes down to. Yeah, and please, absolutely, I know it's yet another caveat, but please do not think that I am suggesting or trying to imply anything destructive or violent or anything that would be that kind of level of what people are led to believe is called a revolution. You know, I'm not talking about hanging people from lampposts and shit like that. There are many other ways that situations can be dealt with that don't need to resort to that level of violence. The system relies on the use of violence, so perpetuating the same methodology is just perpetuating the same system. If you hang all the politicians and then just elect a load of new politicians, you're going to be back in the same fucking shit within a year or two, or maybe less. So what difference does it make hanging politicians? None. If you could hang the system, maybe it would make a difference, but obviously you can't, because it's a non-physical conceptual thing that's in your head. So therefore, how do you deal with the root of the problem? You address what's in people's heads and in their hearts, in their energy, in their spiritual being. That's how you get rid of this shit. That's how you deal with this system of bullshit. So it brings me back to that point of Are you bred for the circus? There's a lot about this environment now. You know, more people, really, it's become the norm. More people rely on the internet for access to their media, whether that be news or just entertainment or communication with each other, whatever. More people are reliant on the internet. So this is the new environment for the new paradigm. That's one of the results of the Phoenix effect. This new paradigm world is in the internet. It's not on the TV or in the newspapers anymore. But in this environment, how many more people are going to actually start accepting? Because it's not down to proving. Not as far as I'm concerned. I'm quite happy for people disagree. You know, they don't see the same thing that I see or see it the same way I do, whatever. I've seen more than enough evidence now to make me feel confident and to convince me that this shit is taking place. And it's not just happenstance. It's not just the way it is. Agencies, groups, and individuals are deliberately enacting this stuff in this environment to lead towards that single global system where you won't be able to speak out against the system. Not at all, in any way. And that will be an ultimate tyranny. You know, forget about ultimate Thule. You know, you'll be in ultimate tyranny before we find any answers about ultimate Thule. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to talk about that tonight. I've been ranting for like 40 minutes. Join in whenever you want, guys. The Super Bowl point, you know, just the fact that it's the Super Bowl over the weekend. Yeah. It just, when I heard some of the American people, like mainstream people, I saw them talking about it on some of the mainstream news, and they were saying, Super Bowl this, Super Bowl that. And all I kept hearing in my head was super balls. It's a bunch of balls. It's an sports entertainment that is bollocks. Yep. So what they're talking about is, let's go back to the stadium and watch all the bollocks. Yeah, I'll quite happily say I'm cynical about that whole fucking entertainment sports stuff. So I see it in that way. But
yeah, they do it over here with the football, the Premier League. When the starting of the Premier League, it's a big ritual. It's a big build up. They do it with obviously the Super Bowl you mentioned, that, and again, it's that distraction. It's that keeping you sort of in the feeling everything's normal. This is the time of year where you should all be now focusing on this. This is what's happening. This is the big ritual event, or this is what now is a big thing in our lives. You know, we have to now, you know, pay attention now. The football's on. You know, something. You know,
forget about your troubles from the government shutdown. It's Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah, no, I like sports. I do. I used to play football back in the day, but not anymore. But yeah, I mean, I like that sort of sporting thing. But even that, when you think about what they've done to us as people growing up, you know, adults, you know, grown men and women running after things and jumping and skipping and you know, it's like, what are we doing? You know, that's for children, isn't it? Not, is it not? You know, it's this. We need to grow up. You know, we do, and we do get entertained by things. That is the whole point. They know it's such a draw. They know our emotional states. They know what we like. They know we know we like to sort of be cute. They know what to give the men. They give the men, you know, the men's stuff, and the women's stuff. You know, and that's how it's been. And
they're transitioning there.
Yeah, well, it's all mixing together now. Yeah, exactly. It's all,
Did you say that there's a male cheerleader, didn't they? But I think they've done that before. Is my sound all right?
Yeah.
But the other thing I noticed is this government shutdown, that might be a part of the psyop, because this cult Super Bowl has always come during a time of deepest hibernation. And the government shutdown is almost like a part of that. It leads into it. It's middle of winter. It's the coldest time. We're going to shut down and go to sleep. And in the middle of that sleep, you've got this big ritual taking place. Yeah. So is it really hitting people in the subconscious? I don't think it is this year. It seems like they downplayed it.
Yeah.
Just as a little aside or addendum to sort of try and example something you're saying. Have you ever looked at the statue that's on top of the White House, on top of the dome? It's a statue of Persephone. You know, the one who got married off to the I'm forgetting my mythology now. The name of the god who ruled over hell. and she would spend 6 months in hell and 6 months on earth with her family again. Yeah, and that was the contract for marrying the god of the dead. And that's funny how they had that. Hades, thank you. Yeah, that was it. Brain not working, memory not working. It must have been Mandalore Lord.
It might have been Neptune after Hades, because they did change, didn't they? They're one god of the underworld, and then they changed it a little bit later.
I'm sorry, guys. That's Margaret Thatcher. Sorry. Look at the size of that guy compared to the size of the statue. For fuck's sake.
Yeah.
You know.
And I said, when you showed me the picture earlier, I said, isn't that approximately the height, supposedly, of the Anunnaki?
Yeah.
They were meant to be about 9 foot tall, which that statue looks like it's about 9 foot tall. So
yeah. There she is.
Who's that? Raconteurs News. Which is that? Jason?
It's Jason.
Hello, mate. You all right?
How you doing?
Not too bad, apart from losing my voice like I usually do. But welcome. Glad you joined in, right?
Oh, I've got a link for you, Jason. I'll take it off of Twitter. Yeah, because it might not be good on there.
Yeah, we're just sharing this unusually large statue of Margaret Thatcher, which this story was out in November last year, because they're apparently going to have to protect it because it will get vandalized. So they're putting a plan together so they can display this 10-foot monster somewhere. Yeah.
Perhaps they should put it in a cage where it belongs.
yeah.
Just put it in Parliament. Stick it in Burke's seat and fuck him off. Just leave it there staring at everyone.
Oh, stop that now. Sorry.
Stop the presentation.
Yeah, I've been listening to what you've been saying. Our particularly when you were talking about at the beginning, the regional accents and stuff like that. And so there you go. And now you know I've been listening from the start. It reminded me of an old from the New Statesman, the Rick Mayall series that he were a politician, a conservative politician, and he actually is
Eddie Mustard.
That's the one, yeah. He's colluding with a Labour politician, and when he goes and sits and talks to him at the Groucho Club or wherever they are, Alan Bastard is surprised to hear that he's not actually got a Northern Irish accent, and he says, "Oh no, I'm not from Northern Ireland." But we found out that Labour does better when it's run by people with regional accents. That's why Neil Kinnock went out, bought some Nye Bevan records, and became Welsh. Also, and Harold Wilson was French. That just reminded me of that. I just thought I'd get that in. So that's I think it's series 1 of the New Statesman. It's really pretty cool. But yeah, some good points you've been bringing up, Cookie. Good points.
Well, I like the global branding thing. Everything being globally branded. That's been going on for a while, hasn't it? And you mentioned that hyper-normalization documentary by Adam Curtis, sorry, and that sort of stuff. People, we're living through it, aren't we? We're all living through these times. Yeah. We're living through it. I don't know how old you guys are. I know how old I am, but I've been here, 5 decades now or so. So it's, I've seen a few things. So, you see these these cycles, you see these repeating patterns, you see governments being scumbags from when you're little right up to now. It has never changed. So.
On the subject of fear, there's a few people in the comments talking about fear now. And I've said before how the body has different glands, doesn't it? And they charge up with chemicals and then they release. Yeah, and like Pete riding his bike to work is a good way to release the chemicals in the adrenal glands, and testosterone. You get less stress at work if you've had a workout.
Yeah, I need it.
Yeah, I think watching fear on television, it's like a lazy man's way of saying, oh, if I get a little bit scared of what's going on in Saudi Arabia, that will ease the fear a little bit. It'll purge some of my fear, and I'll be better for purging it.
And the classic storylines that they use with the archetypal caricatures, that is meant to bring people in to vent, to vicariously lose those fears or those woes, those worries. Yeah, so the classic storyline of the the hero having to fight against the system, and then he turns out to be the hero and gets the girl in the end. It's a vicarious archetypal release of all those stresses and angst. That's why I agree, like Jeff covered in talking about the superhero movies, the infinity stuff with the rainbow coloration and everything, that whole storyline with the bad guy talking about doing mass genocide of the universe. What the fuck is going on in the world at the moment? Where are a lot of people's angst and fears and worries? And that whole movie series is all about taking those fears and worries and making people feel like they've been alleviated because they've been fictionalized and relieved. The heroes save the day, so you don't have to worry, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
They do it constantly on the TV, on the soap operas and stuff like that.
With the Thanos, the fact that it was talking about the Kabbalah tree, that was all over the black channels. They picked up on it and spread that information fast. So in that way, they combated it. They said to everybody, look, they were trying to mess up your head, but it's actually this, because there's two ways to look at everything.
That's why I do agree, and I've done it myself in the past. I agree with people who cover things like the Super Bowl half-term ceremonies that they do, the spectacles that they put on that have those kind of symbolic overtones, or just fucking obvious sometimes. But at some point, you have to say, well, yeah, okay, they do that, and they do it regularly. So why join in with yet another economic demographic that they've obviously created in this environment, where that's what you do to keep yourself occupied, is you go and look at all those ceremonies and do nothing but break them down and make videos about it. It's become a whole nother industry. Whereas the way I see it is, what you need to do is help people realize that those sort of things happen, the methodology that is being used, the symbology that's being used. And once you've explained it, you don't need to keep going back to it. Yeah. So it's like, help people comprehend that this stuff happens, that these kind of entertainment shows are used as part of the programming. Yeah. And then you don't have to keep going and telling them every year. You don't have to stand outside the Super Bowl with a placard saying, this is satanic New World Order programming. Yeah. It's become a whole nother industry that just becomes a grind that works against any progress made to alleviate the problems of this system, if that makes sense. Yeah, people's energy to work away from this system, I don't want to say against the system, because butting heads with it directly is part of what they want. They want us to throw ourselves against the castle walls. But working away from it, trying to utilize your energy in a way that debilitates the bad side of the system, or the system itself. They don't want you doing that. So if they can capture you into something that just occupies your energy in such a way that, you're doing nothing but ranting at the Super Bowl ceremony, it's like, what are you achieving here?
To be honest, people like Call for an Uprising, they are really easy for PewDiePie to take the piss out of.
Low-hanging
actually
fruit.
Turn all that satanic thing into the latest fashion.
Yeah.
Well, it must be good, because these lunatics are just shouting it's bad.
I'm highly dubious about what he does. I don't see that, him doing what he's doing. I think he's acting as a divining rod for an extreme religious point of view in the USA demographic. In other words, the programming, the narrative, this goes back to Cass Sunstein again, which I mentioned earlier on the Raconteurs News chat here, goes back to the kind of Cass Sunstein style of stuff. They're creating herders that are steering people towards a religious fundamental extremism that then can be used as a justification by the government to say they need to crack down on what's going on online, because there's these people that are radicalizing others into this religious extremist point of view.
And the new abortion law, that is an example of that, because it is not for any medical sense at all. It is basically a little Democrat pocket spitefully passing legislation that they know is going to irk the Christians.
It's probably going to fail. Yeah, it probably won't get through the the process to actually become legislation. But yeah, I know what you mean. That's why I said when I mentioned it, like, I don't know for sure if this has actually been passed or not. I don't think it has yet.
It might have been a one-off. It might have been a one-off that somebody said, "Oh, this woman here, she can have it done," and then they're hoping that, you know, now they can open the door so anybody applying for it.
Yeah.
But I think somebody mentioned it was mental health thing. If you're going to suffer mental harm, yeah, you can have it terminated.
Yeah, but that now has become one of those ambiguous kind of legalese speak, isn't it? Yeah. What equates to mental harm? Fucking anything you want these days.
Somebody who's signed their life over to the state. Once you say, I've got mental problems, give me an abortion, oh, they're quite happy to put you on their books. You're going to be a mental patient for the rest of your fucking life. Yeah.
And in a corporatized health system, which is what they have in the USA, that means inevitably companies would start rubber stamping. You know, women could come in and say, like, oh, I don't want this kid because when it's born, it's going to make me sad. And that'll be it. Yeah, rubber stamp, love, there you go. Into the abortion room, done. Because it's money making, you know, it's private company, private enterprise. So it will happen if they allow if they have legislation to allow it. Crazy shit, man.
Nuts. I don't even understand what the same people that are advocating this are probably the same people that are against the death penalty.
Some of them, yeah, probably.
Yeah, against the death penalty, but, you know, because it's a woman's right to choose. Yeah, it is a woman's right to choose, but she needs to make her mind up before 9 months is gone. She needs to make her mind up as soon as she finds out she's pregnant. And if she doesn't want to keep it, then as early as possible, because then the least suffering. I don't agree with abortion. I mean, that's just my personal thing. Anybody else has got an argument with it, I don't want to argue with anybody and try to turn them to my point of view. But you know, if you've got a white coat on, you can murder a child. Whereas if somebody just went out and murdered a child, then they'd be vilified and it's like we're making the worst in society into the best in society.
Yeah, and that is, to me, it's another one of the indicators. I mean, I was ranting the point about just how immersed into the illusion are people that they can't raise their heads when they see something like this. You know, that must mean you're so sunk down into it that even when something like this is presented to you, you're just like, oh, no, can't look, can't say anything. You know, to me, it's an example of the state of mind of a lot of the population. But really, it's that eugenicist kind of thinking. And it adds into this example. It's one of the examples that adds into the evidence that reveals this globalized, tyrannical agenda. This is not about setting up a one world government where everybody's equal and loves each other and it's like a hippie utopia, that kind of like, no, this is a tyranny with the biggest fucking boots that are going to be stomping on you from every angle. You know, this is going to be the kind of shit where that kind of, I was going to say storyline, but, you know, it's news information about an attempted bit of legislation. That kind of shit is the equivalent to a eugenics program of extermination. And I find it difficult that people can't see that for what it is. If somebody came along and said, oh, we're going to have post-birth abortion for anyone that's got green eyes. Do you not see how it's like you are literally, you're not on the last step, you're teetering on the edge of the last step now. That kind of shit may have been a deliberate attempt, like you're saying, you know, may have been a deliberate attempt to present legislation that they knew would fail, but is there just to create agitation and to stir up, you know, political talking points and whatever. But it shouldn't even be in people's minds to be presented. That is the state of the mind of the people that you're interacting with, that are supposedly governing your planet.
I mean, a lot of people are in this situation where they've often got two jobs. The first job is the job that earns them the money and keeps a roof above their head and clothes on their back and what have you. But the other job is managing their perceptions on social media, how they're perceived on social media, and that sometimes the importance of that overtakes the importance of going to work and doing your thing and earning your money. And what people are doing is you're getting so many people that are trying to manage the way that other people perceive them online, that they are neglecting to try to have any influence on how people that they interact with perceive them, their children, their families, their friends. And so, most times your friends don't matter, if they perceive you, think you're a bit of a wally or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But your children, that's really, really important. And instead of you trying to sit down with your children and give them some sort of happy memory of your life, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create an online persona that's absolutely nowhere near reality. And what you're trying to do is you're looking at other people's stuff. This is why they call it a story on Facebook. You have this story, add to your story. You're looking at other people's stories and you're thinking, well, and you're not actually thinking, well, they're posting the best pictures and they're posting this and this is just what, you don't think that. You think, oh my God, they're doing, and then, you're lost then. You're lost to your children because how other people who are less important perceive you becomes more important than the real important people, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. People getting drawn into the illusion of their digital life. Now you can be anyone you want. And this is where I do agree with a lot of what many of the Christian demographic, I'll use that word again. Many Christian people use this talking point, them bringing forth the Baphomet. They're trying to raise the Baphomet in the new generation. And in many ways, they are trying to take what was just an illusion, an avatar, as in on the internet, you can be anyone you want. So it doesn't matter if you're a guy, if you want to pretend to be a girl on the internet, you can do that. You just pick a picture of a pretty girl with the cleavage showing, guaranteed you'll get loads of attention online. If you've got a YouTube channel and you want to promote your videos, do it that way. You'll get more traffic because people think they're getting some boobies and whatever. But the reality now is they're persuading people that it no longer needs to be just a digital illusion. Now you can apply that digital illusion to your real life, to your own real body. And that's where I can agree with a lot, like I say, a lot of what the Christians are presenting, the revealing or the bringing forth of the Baphomet is about persuading people that something that is fictional, that is non-physical, that is conceptual, that can be a useful principle for you as a philosophical tool, it is not a physical reality. The very concept that you're going to change your physical body to be something or someone else, it's not a reality. But they're getting people to merge the two. What is fiction, as in fantasy off a digital illusionary environment, we're being told it's now going to be made real. You can be your own illusion. And I've met people that have gone, they've gone beyond living that kind of social media illusion where, like you say, they only post the best pictures of themselves and shit like that. And they end up trying to live the illusionary life that they've created online. And it drives them fucking mental.
But you see, that then doesn't become important. What becomes important is the projection that they're giving. It doesn't matter whether they've just gone to, some skanky chippy and, in somewhere on some island that they've paid 400 and odd quid. Me and my wife, when we got married in 2009, we went to Greece. We went to Kavos for our honeymoon. It was a last minute thing and it cost us 400 odd quid for a pair of us, and it was crap. It was empty. It was, you know what I mean? It was a party town. It shut down essentially. We were the last people out. In fact, one night the electricity went off, and I actually woke up and thought I'd gone blind because it was that black. Now you know, that for me is something that I'll treasure and I'll remember. But for somebody to then would have, I mean, there were no Facebook. Well, we weren't on Facebook then. But you know, somebody would have posted the picture of us on the beach, and you know, the one, and you know, the arms. It's just that what people are doing as well is it must be causing a lot of mental health problems. Social media.
Yeah.
I put it on the show for tomorrow night as social media like over, because everybody.
They've started to now admit it in the mainstream. There's been a few stories over recent months. Through most of last year, there was a drip of stories about how social media is not necessarily good for your mental health, that you should manage the amount of hours. And do you remember the stuff about the kids are okay if you only allow them to do so many hours on the internet and shit like that?
But that don't work in practice. That don't work though, does it? I mean,
no.
We all know kids. They've got the phones next to them. If they send a message to somebody, they don't message them back within seconds, then they're in severe anxiety, and they're like wondering, what did I do? What did I say? Have I done something to upset this person? Have I what did I do? What did I say? Have I? It's just. I've seen it, and it's just completely ridiculous. And the amount of mental health. But you see, it's not just the kids; it's the older people as well. People around about my age. I'm 48. I'll be 49 this year, and so I'm nearly 50 years old. But you know, people who I know, who previously, let's just say, people that I know on Facebook, who I've added, that I used to know, that were at school with me and things like that. And I think to myself, I see what they post. And then I think to myself, my God, my impression of that person was so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they're posting pictures of their dinner and, oh, I'm here and I'm here and I'm here and it's everything. And, you know, wherever they are, the life's being lived online, and they're dragging the kids into it. And then the kids think that's normal. So you know,
there is a pile of evidence to show that it is harmful to people's mental health. That's what I mentioned. Like now they've started putting out a few articles here and there because it's plausible deniability. They can, you know, make people feel like, well, the authorities have told us it's okay as long as we only do so many hours a day. But then the reality is, like you say, this just carry on as they were, yeah. But they feel alleviated or alleviated of any concern because they've seen an article in a newspaper, an authority that says, oh, it's okay as long as you're careful with it, don't overdo it, you'll be all right. But the reality of the mental health damage that it's causing to all people, you know, like you say, it's not just children, it's everyone susceptible to this shit, is obvious now. It's undeniable. So they're just trying to cover their bases, man, so that people can't prosecute them.
Also, I mean, they've got people at Tavistock with their ear on the ground, you know, listening for what are people talking about, and they have to comment on it. Because this is where you need them to judge these things for you. That's why 1 week coffee is good for you, the next week it's bad. Then it's red wine, then it's the other. Because everything that people talk about, everything that is a part of their life, has to be, you know, given the okay or the thumb down by government. And it doesn't matter whether they're giving the thumb up or thumb down. It's just listening to them that is giving them they're giving them the authority, and you're not sitting back and thinking about it for yourself, researching it for yourself.
Well, they've even admitted it, haven't they? They came out recently, all the CEOs of Facebook and Twitter and all those others. They knew what they were unleashing. They knew what it was going to do, and they went ahead and did it anyway. So this is now the result we have to deal with, the after effects. You know, oh, we shouldn't have given our kids that tablet when they were 3. You know, it's that's what we do, though, isn't it? Because they're available, and they just had us off with the mobile phone technology as well. None of that's been deemed safe, really, safe to use. None of it since the day it was introduced. You know, even the analog handsets. You know, now the digital ones are even worse, and with 5G coming down the pipe, it's not looking so good either. So, you know, all this stuff is all, you know, having an effect on our health and our mental states and everything.
Another thing I remember is I mentioned when I bought an MP3 once, you know, and it was You know, every single one was like, oh, do you want the lyrics scrolling at the same time? No, I just want to put music on something and fucking listen to it. I don't want all the rest. And the thing about the tablets and the computers and everything is really easy to use, but it's fucking difficult to not use something. You know, like you say you want to give your kid a tablet.
Yeah.
Don't you want an easy interface where you can go in and say, well, I don't mind them watching this stuff, but I absolutely don't want them watching that. Boom. You can't do that. I'm pretty sure you know that is a very difficult thing to do.
There is software available that can do that for you. You can get add-on software that allows you to have like a parental control management.
And as soon as it comes out, they get around it. You know, the people making videos, like they make children's videos. Elsa, and it's fucking adults in costumes doing,
There is also now an industry, a growing industry of companies that produce tech like that, smart tech, but it's directly designed and aimed at children. So you can get like a tablet, but it's somewhat limited in functionality, and it's designed to appeal to children. You know, it's nice colours and big chunky buttons and shit like that. You can get phones that are geared for children. So this is, corporatist marketing to the weakest minds. They will exploit every market they can, and they really want to get your kids when they're young, because, and I'm not going to speculate on the evidence, I think there's more than enough evidence to absolutely prove this. They want to get the kids as young as possible because they know for a fact that it is chemically addictive. So they're just like a drug dealer. They want you to give your kids drugs so that they will become addicted to those devices, and that's it. They're a hooked customer for life.
Yeah.
The phones geared for children, man, they're like alcohol.
Say again, Daisy, you broke up literally just after the first couple of words.
Pops.
Man, I don't know what's going on with your connection. And
it's just died, I think. Yeah, it's not working, Days. You sound gone.
You ain't got your camera on, but try lowering your bandwidth if you can, because that was lagging out terribly. It was like a couple of words, then a big gap, then a couple of words, and then nothing.
I don't know if that's any better now.
Yeah.
Can hear you now, sir. Go on, say.
Just saying, those phones that are geared for children, they're like alco pops, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even in that respect, at least alcohol takes a while for people to develop an addiction. Whereas
you remember those alka pops though? It was like lemon hooch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, it was geared towards like 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah. And
you
the
jellies.
Get me on it. You can still get some of the jellies, I think, but they banned a lot of them because they appeal too much to kids. They look just like sweets.
And what Gary was saying about the ease of use, you know what I mean? It's just a systematic dumbing down in that process. See it everywhere, man. Media, the music, the journalism, everything.
I know I've mentioned this before, and I've never actually got the clip to show when we do it, and I wouldn't do it now because it'll get a copyright fucking harassment bollocks. But if you watch the movie Idiocracy, and the scene where he goes to the hospital and he's trying to explain to the nurse behind the reception about what his problem is, and the nurse on her desk has got what looks like a touch screen control pad, like a smart pad with icons on it, and she's picking what to press. That is the gradual degradation of people's thinking ability, that we've gone from the stage of like, yeah, it's one thing to have ease of use and accessibility with your technology. It's another thing where the technology and the software on it is being geared deliberately to simplify your thinking. Yeah. So now all you need is a hand that you can mash the keypad with, and the thing will give you a dopamine rush reward. You know, it's beyond appealing to the lowest common denominator. It's making the lowest common denominator. So again, they can sell their tech to anyone. You know, IQ doesn't have to be even in double figures, and you'll still be able to use the technology.
When we were talking about Orwell, I remember a question came up. I couldn't remember the answer to it. Whether Orwell was like portraying the eventualities of socialism or like communism rather than like capitalism, despite its similarities. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's for myself personally, I think that's a difficult question to give a complete answer on, as in he's one side or the other. I don't I don't feel there's enough definitive statement from himself that he was talking directly about just one thing. Yeah, I think he was talking about just the idea of governance in general and how it doesn't matter.
Just like a control system?
Yes, yeah, a control system, not a system that is a political party or even a political ideology. It's beyond that. This is purely the methodology of power to dominate over others.
And sorry, on you go, Cookie.
I was just going to say, from what I know of his work and the stuff he's put out in interviews and whatever, it could be easily, and I've heard some of the critics say this, it could be easily pointed out that all he was talking about was his experience of the Second World War and the rise of communism, the rise of Russia. But I think it's more than that. If you read his stuff and listen to his interview, he was talking about power in general.
The hate speech part, like on abortion that you were talking about, that was like, opinion, like having an alternative opinion, you know what I mean? It's like, it reminded me of saying, think about what you can't criticise, you know what I mean? You find out the people or the ethos of the people that rule society, do you know what I mean? It's, is it New York State that's legalised it to full term? And this is the question I was really wanting to ask on it. Is it not weighed against, I think maybe Gary touched on it and somebody else, is it not weighed against the health of the mother or what the doctors were saying? It was unviable birth or something. They use some fucking terrible word like that. But it's like, it's obviously a very emotive, divisive topic and a time waste with them. It's looking for a reactionary, divisive effect, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'd also, I would also add, this is my point of view, it's a gradualism technique. The system constantly uses this, it's a psychological methodology. They ask for a mile so that you give an inch. And over years, over the life, because government's intent is to be here to stay. Maybe I should say the power system, the control system, its intent is to be here forever. So they don't give a shit if it takes them 100 years to achieve a goal, beyond the lifespan of a single person. It doesn't matter. The agendas are planned over multiple generations. So they ask for a mile and you give an inch. So if they say full-term abortion and there's a big argument that goes through the judicial system and public protests and inquiries and scientific studies, and you end up with a 6 months abortion limit, that's just gone up. It's like the gradual reduction of the age of consent. They've been whittling away at that for decades.
Is there a medical situation where the mother may be harmed at almost full term? Obviously there are situations. There's the latter situation where there's where they said unviable births and that. You know what I mean? What severe defects and stuff like that. But I'm no expert. You know what I mean? I'm just wondering out loud. Is there like, you know what I mean? Right up till that point, is there situations where the mother could be in severe? You know what I mean?
There could be. Yeah.
I think that's got to be weighed. You know what I mean? That's got to be weighed as well.
That's where you get into that argument of at what point does a life become a life? That's really what it's about. Right? At what point do you judge that the fetus is no longer just a bunch of cells, but it is actually a living being that has just the same rights as the mother that is carrying it?
Well, why can't they?
It can live outside. It can live outside the womb, possibly. Like,
well, why can't?
That's been the standard for a long time. And
if it's 8 months, why can't they just put the mother to sleep and have a cesarean section like they would do?
But this is why, in answer to Daisy's question, I said yes. There are situations where even at full term, trying to birth the child by cesarean or something could still lead to complications that could threaten the mother's life. So it wouldn't be accurate to say, no, they could always, guarantee they could always get the child out without endangering the mother. That's not true. So, I think it's a valid topic, of a valid question to be asked about that kind of thing. What are the exceptions? Because there will always be exceptions. But to introduce this as the kind of legislation, the way it's presented, is far beyond what was already there in the first place. It's far beyond that kind of exception that would have been discussed in a medical situation if that kind of thing arose anyway. Even with the current legislation, if there was a situation where there was an 8-month-long pregnancy, but the mother was in danger of dying if they tried to birth the child, the same questions would come up again. The point is, with this legislation, is they're trying to talk about making it a standard in such a way that, with, like I mentioned earlier, the private health system as it works in America, guaranteed you would end up with companies basically running abortion shops. It's, I don't want this baby because it makes me feel sad. Rubber stamp, there you go, love in the room. That is just sanctioned eugenics. You look into Planned Parenthood and all that kind of shit over the decades, that kind of, what was the name, Sanger. It is insidious, and it is, I feel, pretty obvious if you do the work, because there's a lot of material to look at and whatever, but you put the effort in to learn about all that kind of stuff. It helped me change my mind about some of the abortion questions over the decades, because in the 90s, I was all for abortion, but I was basing it on whatever the scientists said, because I still had somewhat of a belief in the academic system in that way, So if the scientists said it was okay, that I'd say it was okay, But the more I learned about it, so no, this information is managed in such a way that they can use this against the population in general. So Planned Parenthood was deliberately created and rolled out on the American public in such a way that it was used as eugenics against the population. It's blatantly fucking eugenics. Think as well of things like the Gates Foundation going around the world injecting people with vaccines that they didn't know included anti-fertility elements in the vaccine. So in other words, they were sterilizing people against their will without their knowledge. It's fucking eugenics, aren't they? Just trying to hide it. They pretty it up and make it sound like they care about you and your welfare. We care about these mothers who might suffer some problem or maybe even life-threatening complications because of an unwanted pregnancy. The reality is nothing like that. Those exceptions have always existed, where there might be a case where a mother near full term has some reasoning for wanting to abort the child, or even the medical advisors suggest it, whatever. But they're trying to bring it into such a way that they normalize it so that it becomes throwaway. And that is the worst elements psychologically of eugenics. I think that's why it rattled my cage. I thought I had to mention it and include it in this kind of connection of how they manipulate people's minds en masse, how they manipulate the mass mind.
Yeah, I just made me think about another point as well when you were talking about self-policing. Like the way society does it, we've touched on it before, but it's like the panopticon jail system. You know what I mean? Where you feel as if you're being watched all the time, even if you're not. You know what I mean? So that leads to that sort of, you know what I mean, cutthroat sort of grassing, snitching atmosphere. You know what I mean? The sort of one-upmanship.
When somebody said to me a while ago, it's going back a few months, and whatever, somebody said this phrase to me, like, it's not who you are in public, it's to find out who you really are, it's what you are, what you like in private when nobody's looking. And I thought, I scratched my head, I thought, okay, fair enough, you're trying to suggest that people put out a false persona when in public, which is true, a lot of people do that. It's that mask element, that kind of psychology. And it's like what we were talking about earlier with the social media imagery, you know, people pretending to be somebody that they're not. But it also left me thinking, oh, that's somewhat telling on your psychology, mate, because that means, are you going out into the world presenting yourself as being something that you're not, such that you're then concerned that if people see you, let me finish that. If people could see you when you thought you weren't being watched, are you somebody different? Because I'm not. I don't know if anyone's actually watching me now, you know, apart from the obvious, forgive the pun, but I don't know if anyone's watching me now. And once I log off, I don't know if anybody's watching me, but I'm still the same fucking person. I don't go out in public pretending to be somebody else. That's indicative of that kind of sociopathic mindset that most people are under.
I don't know how much of that I agree with. I agree with some of it, but I don't agree with all of it. I think I've done acting in college and stuff like that, and I've thought about these sort of things, and that's not a fucking claim to authority, by the way. Sorry, just thinking out loud.
Sharing experience. You've had experience of doing that kind of thing directly, you know, by choice, by intent.
I think the way that a lot of people interact, myself included, and I'm not saying it in a pejorative way, I think that, and largely we're an amalgamation of people that we've seen, like our elders and our families and stuff like that, movies that we've watched, books and films that we've seen and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to argue the point with you, Cookie. I'm just saying, like, on another way of looking at it. You know what I mean? I feel, and it's like, it's how we shape those energies. You know what I mean? It comes into us like a prism, you know, like that dark side of the moon sort of image. You know what I mean? It's how we.
It's the transitional point between yourself and everybody else. The everything.
I believe that we're all actors in a way. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that we need to be false. You know what I mean? And our output. You know what I mean? It's not exactly. It's that transit. It's the fourth wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The proscenium arch. I think
I was using it mainly just as an example, you know, as an indicator of the kind of mindset that a lot of people fall into, whether they're aware of that they're doing it or not. Yeah. But the point to me, especially in reference to what you were saying about that digital panopticon, you know, absolutely, for a long time now, the system has been trying to give people the impression that they're constantly under scrutiny. Therefore, that will cause them to self-police. And as an example of the assimilation that many people have done was that kind of statement of somebody saying, like, well, yeah, the real you is the one that you are when you think that you're not being watched.
That's illegal.
Yeah, that to me just epitomised, mate. You're self-policing. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're living an illusion.
I was just wondering, like,
somebody is watching you.
I was just wondering, like, how much privacy do we really have at the end of the day anyway? You know what I mean? When are we not really being watched? You know what I mean? Not to fucking spout fear porn, you know what I mean? But the reality of the situation, do you know what I mean?
To a large degree, yes. Because I know I can put myself into a situation when I've got a high degree of confidence that I can't be watched. You know, go and lock myself in the cupboard under the stairs without any technology around. You can do shit like that, but then that again is part of the psychology that they want you to adopt.
That's until 5G kicks in.
Yeah. But my attitude for a long time has been, I know that sometimes they're there and they're watching. And I know that when it comes to stuff on the internet or using the technology, you know, the cell phone network and whatever, I leave a data trail. So I know that information is there if those people want to access it. But I'm not going to let that stop me doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to be naive in as such that I will post everything about my life, my secrets, my innermost thoughts. And I'm not going to project that out because that's mine. That's for me. That's my privacy. Yeah. In here, private. Yeah. That's why I banged on so much about cognitive liberty and the modern technology being able to breach that wall. But for me, it's like, you can't not make use of a lot of this stuff, because the world is being actively, systematically changed over so that this stuff is becoming intrinsic to your daily life. So to outright avoid it, you have to change your position in life quite a lot. It can be done, but it's not easy and it's not applicable. Oh, sorry. Good night, Gary. Thanks for joining. It's not applicable to most people in their lives. Yeah. So the idea of just outright removing it overnight doesn't work. But being aware of and being careful with your use of it, you can do that quite easily. Yeah, so that's why I don't post everything online. You know, you won't find videos of me walking down the road. Here's me going to the shops. Here's me going in this shop now. Look at me. Look, I'm on the internet. Or like that kind of social media shit. Like, look, here's me on holiday. Here's me looking happy and smiley. And, you know, I won't show you the bit where I was pissed off. All that bullshit.
Yeah, and that's the masks I've always said that people wear in society, put on different masks and different things that, you know, people will adopt a certain behavior around a certain situation and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But, you know, it's about being yourself really and truly. And if you do get on that right alignment to do that, it doesn't matter. You're just yourself and it's okay. People forget it's okay to be yourself. You know, they want you to project all of that shit on social media and act like, you know, daft or ego or narcissistic. You know, it's like a narcissistic feedback loop, isn't it? For some people, you know, they get the likes, they get the hits, and it just becomes this, you know, and they knew what they were doing, like I said before, when they were putting this stuff out there back in the day, when they were producing these algorithms and these and these programs, you know, to, you know, they knew the reactions it would get from the people, and it knew it would cause this sort of, like I said, this where we are now with this technology, especially with the kids. That's the problem with the children, and that never was. We were never affected by that, any of us. You know, we weren't born into that, and this lot from about 2000 onwards were. You know, they're born into a sort of digital, you know, computerized world. You know, where they had screens to click on initially, and then the iPads were introduced a few years after that. Not very long. So, you know, they've had this gradual progress to this, and the way they simplify it, yeah, it's another dumbing down process. You know, your drama, your film, your music, everything, like you say, Days, you know, everything's been brought down to a level of just stupidity or daftness or banal and boring, to me anyway. But
in the new paradigm, when property, and now I'm talking a bit into the future here, so, you know, bear with me, because I'm projecting quite a distance, so some of this stuff might not happen for a long time, some of it might not happen at all. But when property no longer becomes universal, you know, there is no such thing as private ownership of anything. Everything's owned by the state, and you are allowed use of it based on a resource need. Yeah, it's similar to a kind of communistic, socialistic system, because that's what they're going to bring in eventually. All public services will be based on the same thing, but what counts as a public service will change in the coming paradigm. Yeah, when all that kind of shit starts going through, I don't know, that it might, like I said, it might take a while, but that element of the digital reality of people's living is going to become the only thing that people have left. I say digital reality, you know, their illusion of reality. Because if property ceases to exist, there's going to be less production required. Production will be managed to fit within that resource managed, holistic, technocratically controlled system. So the number of jobs available will go down and down. The increases in technology means there'll be even more so less jobs available. More and more people will have nothing to do and no money to be able to fund doing something that they might want to do. So how do you keep them occupied? How do you keep them distracted? And how do you keep them programmed following the political narrative and doing the 1984 style hour of hate, you know, and all that kind of shit?
You lied to them. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it's through their digital existence. Yeah, and part of this environment has been geared to I've seen it grow over the last decade. The encouragement for people to get involved into some kind of virtual medium, virtualized medium, and that becomes their new job, their new work, their new occupation. And the whole gambit of it includes creating new markets, in effect. Yeah. So, and I don't mean in terms of like the new technology coming out as creating new markets like drone tech and shit like that. I mean new markets in the sense of, let's take some old ideas, shuffle them around a bit, and represent them to the public. And there you go. There's a whole new demographic of people who can produce media, books, documentaries, articles, websites, so tons of shit about this new subject, this new idea that we brought along. And the reason I mention that is because over the years of doing this in this internet, YouTube in particular, this YouTube environment, I've seen how subjects that I thought were like, didn't people know about that? Hadn't people already realized this shit? But no, it gets presented all over again with a slightly new twist on it. You know, there's some new voice that comes forward to speak on a subject and says, I've been researching for 2 decades about this. So here's my new book that's all about, you got to buy this new, if you want to know about this topic, you've got to buy this new book. And it's everywhere, you know, it gets promoted all over the place. And they're the new person with this new idea. And you read about it, it's like, this isn't new. This is a really old idea that they've just shuffled things about. What the fuck? But, in that process, in that time of you finding that out, there's this whole marketing demographic that's taken place. A whole industry that's sprung up around this shit. And that's what I see them doing with this digital environment. So they bring in all these new storylines, all these new ideas. Oh, have you ever heard about the Super Bowl ceremonies? Well, now they make particular effort to put on a show that includes symbolism at the Super Bowls, at the Olympics. Why are they doing that? Is it because they're revealing the hierarchy? Yes, but at the same time, they know that they've created this whole new marketplace in this digital environment where people without work are going to be occupying themselves. So they've got to feed that marketplace with new stories. So here you go, folks. Let's spend another year talking about the Super Bowl ceremony and how there's all this different symbolic occultism included in it.
And if you go to see this year's, there wasn't one, funnily enough.
I know. That's the main thing I saw people saying about it. Yeah, It made me think of the Economist blank cover. Originally, the 2019 cover was just going to be an all black cover with 2019 in white on it, and then they brought out the Leonardo cover. Yeah. I thought maybe they're doing that kind of shit. You know, they're giving people an empty gap. It's like the pause in the melody that makes you appreciate the next note that comes forward, or when the DJ hangs the beat and you're all gasping for breath and then he brings it back in and you picked back up again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. These are psychological techniques that the system knows quite well. And I'm ranting about that kind of digital life shit. Sorry. More and more they're building this environment to be the new workspace. And work doesn't necessarily mean you're getting paid. It just means it's occupying you. It's keeping your energy in a particular place, going a particular direction that they can, with their ability to manipulate the environment in this digital environment, with their Cass Sunstein style techniques, they'll just keep next story. Yeah, give them another one. Give them another thread. Here you go. This year it's Pizzagate. Next year it's Flat Earth. The year after that it's Mandela Effect. This year it's Mud Flood. What's your new story for this year, folks, that's based on ideas that are ancient? They've just been rearranged and some stupid cunt comes forward and says, I got this new idea. Bullshit, have you?
We've got one on tomorrow night on Raconteurs News. We all died in 2012. Mandela Effect. That's what it is.
Am I dead? Can you prove I'm dead, please?
No, I don't need to. I'm not making them claims. I'm just passing on a message, shall we say. Yeah. Don't shoot the messenger.
But I do. I've ranted about this a lot, man, since it started. The Mandela Effect is a deliberate attempt to disconnect people from their own memories, their own gnosis, their own knowledge base, which includes not just themselves, but their peer group, their social group, you know, like your parents, your grandparents, etc. your extended family. And it's to instill at a very deep psychological level, at a foundational level, the element of doubt in everything. Because if you take the very concept of the Mandela effect on its basis from when it was originally proposed by that Fiona Broom character, you know, Fiona on a broom, Fiona the witch that believes in fairies and all that kind of stuff. When you take the very concept as she originally suggested it, then you can believe nothing from history, not even from 1 second ago. I could have said something completely different 5 seconds ago, and the Mandela effect has changed my mind such that I now remember it differently. It is nasty. It is a nasty psychological trick to put in people's heads. And I'm of the attitude, I'm fair enough, whatever people want to look into is up to them. It's their choice what they do with their time and energy. But I at the same time have the choice to speak out against this stuff, because I think it's a deliberate psychological tactic. It's a psyop warfare tactic to take the energy of people online looking into information about governmental conspiracies or the genuine shit out there in the world, and to instill the element of doubt by giving them a totally unsubstantiatable fantasy idea that at a whim somebody with a bit of technology can alter the entirety of history if they choose to, which means at any moment you've got to have no knowledge, because knowledge is learned through a linear process. So if you can't trust what the step, the moment before it happened, then in other words, you have zero knowledge.
That leads to moral relativism and solipsism as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's nasty, man. It's one of the worst things out there. I thought flat earth was fucking bad enough because it just confuses people so much. But this Mandela effect is just nasty.
Do you not think that you're perhaps underestimating people? You're underestimating the way that people can see these things? Because I watch it purely for entertainment, right? I've got no opinion on the Mandela effect. I do chuck things in at times and say, well, this, that, yeah, whatever. I do chuck things in, but I don't have any opinion on it. But
yeah, I get you. But it's there in your mind now. The concept
but the reason why I've got this is why I've done this is because since things have been going on with the yellow vest, and since before Christmas, and perhaps for the last year, things on Raconteurs News have been really quite serious stuff. We've not had anything where we can get somebody on. Let's just get. I want to talk to somebody who's got this sort of idea, and I want to talk to these people. So I'm doing it from an entertainment point of view. Mm-hmm. That people come on to listen to us, and they want to be entertained, and they don't want to every week be doing the bills of exchange bingo. Mm-hmm. And all the various other things that come along that we do quite often. And I want them to just have something where they can just sit back and relax, relax and just listen to stories, then have a look, but then don't take it any further. I'm not suggesting people start researching it and going into it and getting really obsessed with it, because that's the problem. Is that people get obsessed in one particular area. So when it comes to things like Mandela effect and flat Earth, because they're completely unprovable, one way or the other, whether it's the Mandela effect or whether it's the flat Earth, it's completely unprovable. So I like to slot them in and try to get them in as an entertainment. And also, it can be thought-provoking, because you can find things in different issues that perhaps might be something that would fit into something else that you are interested in. So that's my reasoning. That's my defence, shall we say?
Yeah. Well, you don't have to defend yourself, right? Yeah. So go on, Dave.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I think that's the most important thing in debate. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you don't agree with what somebody's saying, or you find it offensive what somebody's saying, I think the most important thing is that everybody is entitled to their own opinion.
That's a choice. If you to find something offensive is a choice, right? You're making a decision that you don't like that, and you're going to portray that by saying that your feelings are hurt. That's a choice.
Yeah. I choose to be offended that you're offended. But my point is, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't.
You're right.
I agree with you on what you're saying, of presenting stuff to people that is a variety of stuff. You're not putting a boundary on people. You're not telling them that they can't go and look at that information. In the same way, I'm not trying to do that. I'm not telling people that they should not ever look into it. I don't agree with that kind of way of trying to go about things. It doesn't work when you just ban people from stuff. It does the opposite. But my point is about how, if, say, for example, what you're suggesting in the sense of, people have their own choice to look into this stuff. If they choose to look into it, it's up to them. I agree with that. But the difference is this environment is not free and open and fair in the way that your suggestion implies or infers. So if you had a level playing field where every subject was available to people and it was by the people's own choice they go to what they choose to look at, I guarantee you would not see Mandela effect being as popular as it is. It would not be promoted in the same way it is. You would not see the number of videos and broadcasts and shows getting pumped into the mainstream because it turns up on the trending side of YouTube every so often, which means YouTube is promoting it. You wouldn't see it unless they want it in people's faces. So what I'm talking about here is, one, there is an unfair playing field because shows like our own are cul-de-sac to such a degree that you won't appear next to a trending Mandela effect video, because they don't want people in general to hear what we're saying. They're quite happy for people to hear the Mandela stuff because it's just entertainment. There's nothing that can be done about it. There's nothing that can be proved about it. It's just to occupy your mind. It's mental bubblegum.
But don't we need that mental bubblegum at some time? Sometimes we do need that mental bubblegum. Like
everybody needs some R&R.
Videos all day long. You just going to say the same.
Let me finish. Everybody needs some R&R. Yes, I agree with you. I do similar. I watch some trash, TV program or something just for that kind of mental bubblegum. But the point I'm trying to get across is that kind of stuff being promoted is to deliberately mess with people's heads, the mass of the population, because the mass of the population don't have the time or willingness to make the effort to look for information that may be more relevant to their daily lives. Instead, they're happy to just click on the bit of entertainment. And in that entertainment is a deliberate attempt to manipulate their ability to think, their psychological abilities, their cognitive abilities.
I don't get that, right? I get that. Listen, I get that. I do get that you think that the Mandela effect, and I probably agree with you, it probably is some sort of psyop on one level. But us ignoring it is...
I don't ignore it, mate. I go through it quickly, because my attitude to it is you can explain this kind of stuff to people quite quickly and give them the tools so that they can look at any subject such as the Mandela effect in the future and go, oh, okay, yeah, I can work my way through that. I'm not going to waste 6 months of my time researching how CERN is opening portals to Uranus. That's what I mean, right? I'm quite happy for people to look at every subject. I would rather that they did. One of the things that frustrates me is people's bias to restrict themselves from looking at all information and all sides of an argument.
But you're displaying that bias by saying to people, don't look at it. You're not.
I didn't say don't.
No, you didn't. I was just correcting myself. You didn't say don't look at it, but you were saying that it was a psyop and it shouldn't be looked at. All I'm saying is it's entertainment. Mm-hmm. It's entertainment. It's something that people can look at and think, oh well, yeah, it's oh yeah, actually I remember it the other way, and then that's it. It's gone.
But that for me is where the dangerous elements of it are, because similar to other situations, subjects and topics, it's the system's methodology of appropriating thought processes and malforming them deliberately. So what I'm trying to explain here is, for example, like what I mentioned earlier about when they use the same storylines in a movie. So you've got the hero rescuing the princess and all that kind of stuff, yeah? They take an idea that they know naturally occurs in people's minds and in when people get together in groups and they share these ideas amongst them. They take that naturally forming idea and they put it into a situation where they can appropriate it and claim authority over it. They then twist it and represent it to you in a new form, but because it's coming from them, the authority, people accept the new form and it messes up their own ability to think. So, for example, like I think I said it earlier, with something like the idea of the Mandela effect, if you take the very idea on the principle of itself as being true and you try and apply that to reality, it means every moment anything could have that happened previously could have been changed. So you cannot trust any memory, any knowledge, because knowledge is memory. Yeah, that's how it fucks with the public's mind. That the reason it's a psyop is because that psychological attack is meant to fuel the current situation where the internet medium is the main place where people get their news. The internet medium, being digitally based, can be very easily edited on the fly, live. It can be edited such that that digital copy of 1984 that you're reading on your Kindle reader can be digitally edited while you're fucking reading it. Yeah, so they want people to think, oh, when I looked online last week, I saw this article that said David Cameron fucked a dead pig. But now when I go and look at the article again, it said David Cameron really likes pizza. Oh, it must be Mandela effect. Do you see what I mean?
I see what you mean, but I like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to come from it from by presenting it as entertainment rather than presenting it as factual. I present it as entertainment. The person that's made the video that says that we all died in 2012. Mm-hmm. I'm presenting that, and I think I have done. I've not been saying, oh, you know, I'm not Mark Salon.
No, I'm not attacking. I'm not attacking you, and I'm not trying to tell you that.
I just feel, right? I just feel that we've got a big show on Tuesday night, which is probably going to be a bit haywire and all around the place. But so, I wanted to do something on when I wanted to fulfill the 2 hours this week, and we didn't have a guest on Monday, and I've been not very well. I've been, you know, all over the place. So
I'm not attacking you, and I'm quite happy.
I know you're not. But you made your point. I just want to make mine. That I just want people to understand, and I think I've been advertising it as that. That it's just for entertainment purposes. This guy, it's like if I had somebody on claiming to be a time traveler. You know, there's no way I could prove it. There's no way that they can prove it. There's no way that anything could happen. But you know, we might have them on because it would be interesting, and you know, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get away. We've been quite serious for the last few months, and Andy's left, and we've had all this Brexit and this yellow vest stuff, and we've had lots of stuff going on. And then I just wanted to just lighten it up a bit, and I heard the interview with the guy, and I thought this guy's interesting. People will be entertained by him. By his story, by his theory, which he openly admits it's his theory. It's not what he claims is reality. So that's and do you know what? If you just ignore the Mandela effect and you just push it to one side, then it's like you're not open to everything that you claim to be open, because we are open. We claim to be. Let's say we are open. There's some people that won't come on again, but you know, we are open to differing point of views, and I just look forward to just hearing his story, just hearing his theory as a like a 1 hour, perhaps an hour and a half special. That's all it's going to be. And I just wanted to just try and bring a bit of light relief. And I also know that there are people that are interested in the Mandela effect. There are people that are going to follow this guy. Maybe they'll hear our show and then come back and listen to other shows. So I don't want to sound like a marketing wanker and that, but you know, it's just, I just felt a little bit of light relief were needed, and that's why I chose that, because the Mandela effect, I think it's very, very interesting. In fact, at one time, I were a little bit like, I was watching them all the time when I was washing up in kitchen, and I've got my little telly in there, and I was putting YouTube on, and I was watching videos on it all the time. But then there's different things that happen.
Can I give you a reason why I think stuff like that is beneficial for people in that kind of, you know, it's a topic you've not heard before. And you saying you were listening to it while you're doing other stuff, you know, you kind of fascinated and drawn in by the concept. But that, in a way, that is why it can be a good effect to look at stuff that at first, when you hear about it, you might think, oh, that's way out there. That's, you know, that's really off the wall. I couldn't get my head around that. But just by the fact that you go and take an interest in it, just give it some credence, even if it's for 5 minutes, it's like exploring new territory in your own mind, in your own thinking. Yeah, it's what I was saying earlier about until somebody points out to you some of the patterns, you may not be aware of them. You know, it's like when somebody points out, you know, have you ever seen a yellow Skoda? You've never seen one before, and now all of a sudden you see them everywhere, and it's obvious they've always existed. It's just that you didn't really notice them. Yeah. In the same way, your own thinking develops over time to be a certain range. You know, think of it as like the garden of your mind, but there's edges to the garden where nature is taking place, and you don't often go out there because it's a bit wild. Yeah. But looking at ideas you've never thought of before, even if they do at the beginning seem way out there and extreme, they're you exploring out on the edge of your own territory. So it's beneficial to do that. It's beneficial to look at everything, even if you do end up thinking, oh, you know, I spent 5 minutes looking at that and it's bunkum. But at least it's possibly presented to you concepts that you may not have been able to conceive of yourself because your own pathways through your garden have become a rut. So you've never seen what's over the other side of the fence. Does that make sense, sir?
Yeah. It don't listen. It does. Look, I've just been reading chat room actually, your chat room, and look, all I'm trying to do is I know there are people in there that saying that the Mandela effect is silly and it's this and it's that, but you know, all I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get a guy who's over in America, has never done an interview here. Never been on a British stream or anything like that. So I just wanted to just get him to come on and do his stuff. If you don't like it, don't listen. We've got plenty of other stuff that's well worth listening to. That's real stuff. I mean, I don't think the Mandela effect's real. I think it, like you say, it's either a psyop or it's a. But when you have to try to put both sides, and Dinny's told me to shut up, so I'm going to shut up.
I was just good. I often end up listening to stuff that I don't like. It's part of the thing of doing this kind of stuff means, yeah, I probably put more time and effort into listening to things that I don't like or that I disagree with, because by what I'm doing, I'm trying to sort of present my stuff to people, the public in general. So that means I've got somewhat of a commitment to like look at the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, which includes both sides of the arguments. You know, so if it's a question like the Mandela effect, I've spent a few hours, probably a good few hours, watching some of the stuff that people have put out there that, you know, promote the idea of the Mandela effect. And I've also probably spent more hours listening to people that debunk it or refute it or whatever. But My point being is like, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I often end up looking at and listening to stuff that I don't necessarily like or agree with. But to me, that's part of that, you know, looking at everything. You can't, there isn't literally enough time to look at everything. There is not enough physical time to listen to absolutely every point of view, everybody's opinion, etc. But you do as much as you can, yeah. You listen to what you choose to listen to. That's why, you know, I think it's good that you're doing it, but I'm giving my 10 pence worth. You know, it's more than tuppence. So I'm rich. I'm 10 pence worth. I'm giving my 10 pence worth that you got to be careful with some of this stuff. And I'm quite happy that people look at it, but I'm optimistic and I would encourage them to keep moving through it. Don't stop there. And please don't end up falling into the kind of idea where you think, you know, there's portals opening to Uranus and stuff like that, because, yeah, that's part of the danger of that kind of stuff to me. It becomes about, like the flat earth question, to me, it becomes about helping people to develop the philosophical tools that are helpful for them to look at any subject. So you hear about the flat earth subject, you're interested, you want to go and look into it, or maybe you're only half interested and you're just sort of, you know, looking for something to occupy you or entertain you for a bit. But you're looking into it. So have you got the philosophical tools? Do you have the cognitive ability to work your way through what it is that's been presented to you? Because a big part of the problem in general that we're facing and that we deal with constantly, and that I talk about a lot and we end up talking about a lot on these broadcasts, is the way the system will happily keep you dumb because it prefers weak-minded people. So it will be happy if you succumb to these illusionary ideas that they present to you. This is why they've been constantly feeding the mainstream media with ideas like reality is a hallucination or a hologram or a computer simulation, because all of these feed that kind of psychology where you doubt your very existence, things like that. You know, they want people to be like that. So education, true education, the ability to be able to be presented with any topic and work through it for yourself and go, yeah, that's valid, that's logical, that's evidence, that adds up, or it doesn't. That takes the power away from the authority and gives it back to you. So go on,
I was just going to say those topics though, again, I know in mind, and then like they should be open for discussion without ridicule.
Yeah.
As any discussion should be, you know what I mean?
So you can
well, it would certainly be interesting tomorrow evening anyway. I'll look forward to it tomorrow evening.
I'm curious to hear how he explains it. Dead.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Be interesting. Yeah.
Could be similar to the rapture kind of stuff, or the 5D, you know, the kind of, it's part of the legacy of the New Age church that, you know, we're all going to ascend into the fifth dimension and that kind of stuff. And the earth will split in two, and there'll be the original earth that's all the nasty people, and then all the people who've done the inner work, you know, the crystal work and whatever, they all ascend to this new 5-dimensional earth where everything will be love and happiness and ooh. Yeah.
Better hurry up, Cookie, because the mothership's coming soon.
Yeah. Uamua. We missed the bus, mate. It's already been and gone. Yeah. They came in, they picked up those that were due, you know, had the ticket, had their golden ticket. Yeah, the rest of us are still stuck here on Earth. All right, it's 11. I think I should shut up now. I think we should wind it up. We've been rattling enough. And it's been a good conversation. Thank you for joining in.
Cheers. Thank you, Cookie.
Cheers, Cookie.
Cheers, Cookie.
You know, we haven't biased you too much. You're listening in the chat. I get distracted by the chat room. Hello to everyone in the chat. Oh, Mr. Mash, hello. Hello, mate. Hope you're all right, Mr. Mash. And Doom Chaser, hello. That's Altered Edge Media. That's Jason Cardini, hello. I'm just having a quick scroll up. I'm sure I'm going to miss people because the chat goes back quite a way, so I'm bound to have missed somebody out. Dotty, hello. Good evening, I should say. That's what I was saying earlier, wasn't it? Webby, you're always welcome to join in as well, Paul, if you want to. Just ask Jason for the link up if you wanted to join in.
I sent it in, mate.
Eman,
I think you were watching.
So maybe next week or whatever, you know, but the invite's there if you want to join in at some point. Krishna, hello. I shared the link round for your show the other night. I didn't get the chance to actually listen in though. It was getting a bit late for me, so I tend to run out of energy after about midnight. I think I've said hello to a lot of people. Steve Owens, hello. Mascara Snake, hello. Good evening to you all, and good evening to everyone that I might have missed. Sorry if I missed you out. I'm scrolling quickly and I'm trying to finish up and click the button so you can all go and do something far more interesting. Yeah, stop expending your energy on these crazy people on the internet talking about crazy stuff. But yes, keep looking, keep talking, keep investigating. And don't let them put you off. Don't let them convince you that you can't do anything. You can. You can change the world. You change the world every day. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for giving us your attention for a couple of hours. Back again on Wednesday night on the reality chat. And Steve Tagoose will be on Saturday with the mystery show. Krishna hosting his hangouts on a Thursday and a Friday night, I think he said it, but he's also, I've seen him do some others. So I think you'll probably end up doing more if more people are turning up. And the Raconteurs News guys will be on tomorrow night and a special on Wednesday night as well. So check out their channel as well. Thanks a lot again for tuning in. I'm going to click the button and say good night.
Good night.
Good night.